So, what are gender affirming piercings, and do piercings belong to any specific gender? And I'd like to start just by refreshing our concept of the word affirming. So, affirming means to validate or confirm, to state positively. So, it doesn't mean that something inherently belongs to one gender or a different gender. It just means that it is validating that gender or validating that experience or validating whatever it is that you're affirming. In this instance, my absolute favorite example of gender affirming piercings is actually little girls getting their ears pierced, usually with their mom and their grandma and their aunts. These are children who have grown up in a family where most of the women that they see, most of the matriarchal figures in their life have earlobe piercings, and this becomes an important rite of passage. In fact, for a lot of people, myself included, one of my first experiences with something that was really gendered in my life was getting my earlobes pierced with all of the female members of my family. But oftentimes here on TikTok, when we talk about gender affirming piercings, most folks are thinking about trans and non-binary folks getting piercings that help them explore their gender. The big one that we talk about when we talk about that is genital piercings, which can really help with issues with genital dysphoria, causing euphoria, and even help with function depending on what you're doing as far as HRT or surgery. But it's also so much more than that. It's piercings that can help with any form of gender affirmation. For example, a lot of trans men and trans masculine folks find that they have been told that a lot of piercings, especially facial piercings, are not feminine and not girly. And so a lot of them opt to get these piercings to separate themselves from femininity. And the same thing goes for a lot of non-binary clients as well. On the flip side, like I mentioned, that rite of passage for a little girl getting her ears pierced, that same rite of passage exists for trans women who opt to get their ears pierced later in life. And it's a beautiful way for them to celebrate their femininity. Another great example is septum piercings, which over recent years have become deeply queer-coded and deeply enmeshed in queer popular culture. And for a lot of queer folks and LGBTQ folks, getting a septum piercing is a way of sharing in that. But gender-affirming piercings aren't just for queer folks. After pregnancy and delivery, a lot of mothers feel like their bodies aren't theirs anymore, that their bodies aren't sexy or beautiful, and a lot of times they opt to get pierced afterwards, and once they're done breastfeeding or their kids are a little bit older, and those piercings are a way for them to reclaim their body and reconnect with their femininity and their womanhood. And I have done more nostril piercings than I can count for Black men who were getting them in the spirit of Tupac and the type of masculinity that he ensconced. And so they got similarly placed nostril piercings to celebrate and affirm that same kind of masculinity. Piercings can be really powerful in that, yeah, they can be just a piercing for a lot of folks, but for many others, whether they're consciously aware of it or not, piercings can be a way of how we interact with gender, how we interact with our culture, and how we interact with those around us.